Wait. All right, good.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Beef Up Front podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Coyle, and today I'm joined by guests Joe Kometz, Eddie Turner, and Luke Schubert-Brown. We're going to be going through a first-round mock draft. Each of us have 8 picks out of the 32 in the first round, and this is a live draft for us. We don't know, this isn't scripted. We don't know who we're taking, so it's going to be kind of thinking on your feet and taking the best player available. I'm going to have a timer on my phone, so there's going to be 1 minute between each pick. So we're going to start it off with the first overall pick, and Joseph Kometz is taking that for the Cincinnati Bengals.
That's so awesome. All right, with the first pick, the Bengals, I will be taking Joe Burrow. I mean, it's a pretty obvious choice. You know, they're in need of a quarterback. They don't want Andy Dalton there anymore. Joe Burrow's the best quarterback available, and I think they're crazy if they don't pick him with the first overall pick. That's kind of all I got on for my analysis.
So you're passing on Sam Gillison?
I am. I think he'll be available later on in the draft. That's why I don't want to reach yet.
The Miz faithful doesn't go with the bias pick there. So I have the second pick with the Washington Redskins. With the second pick of the draft, I will be selecting Chase Young, defensive end / edge rusher out of Ohio State. And you're saying he is the best prospect in this year's draft. Just the Bengals need a quarterback at 1. That might be why he's not going there. So he falls into the lap of the Redskins and new regime down there in D.C. with Ron Rivera, a defensive-minded coach. And they also have a very strong defensive line. If you add another guy like Chase Young, who probably will have the biggest Pro Bowl potential out of anybody on their defense as of right now, that could just bring that group to another level. And like I was saying, Ron Rivera is a defensive-minded coach, so he's going to want to build with some beef up front and get a guy like Chase Young there who's going to rush the passer, and he's going to create havoc in the backfield and on the running plays too. So that'll take us to the third pick, which is owned by Eddie Turner and the Detroit Lions.
All right, so at the third pick, the Lions are going to pick Jeff Okudah, Jr. from Ohio State University. 6'1", 205 pounds, and Ohio State has produced cornerbacks in the past, very good ones, as like Marshawn Lattimore, Eli Apple, who are both on the Saints right now, who are both on the championship team when they won in 2015. Matthew Stafford's coming off being injured, and this is also if there isn't any trades. Like you said before, Ryan, we just have no idea what trades could or would happen until draft day. And then he's just going to be the replacement for Darius Slay, who got traded to your and Luke's Eagles.
All right. Next pick is Luke with the Giants at number 4 overall. I think we have a pretty good idea of who he's picking.
So fourth pick, the Giants are going to take Tristan Wirfs, the Iowa offensive lineman. He's 6'5", 320, probably the best offensive lineman in this draft class. It's not really that much of an argument. I think that the Giants really need to protect Daniel Jones going into this season, going into his second year. So to me, it's just an obvious pick right there at number 4.
Okay, sounds good. Next pick is number 5 overall, the Miami Dolphins, owned by Joe Kometz. This is the Dolphins' first pick in the first round, but they own 3, so they'll be picking a few more times towards the end of the round.
The Miami Dolphins and myself will be selecting Justin Herbert, quarterback out of Oregon. Wow. I have him ahead of Tua right now just because of, I've been seeing a lot. Tua's like falling down the draft boards because of his injuries. Some teams are kind of, worried about picking him that high. I think he's better than Justin Herbert, but, Miami obviously needs a long-term fix at QB because Fitzmagic isn't going to be able to carry him very far. Same thing with Josh Rosen. Who might be one of the biggest draft busts we've seen in a while. Justin Herbert, it's a good pick for the Dolphins. He's a good quarterback. I think he's the third best, but with Tua's injuries, I don't think you can take that risk drafting him at 5. because the last thing the Dolphins need is another quarterback to, get hurt, and then all of a sudden they're back to Rosen or Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I think that the Dolphins will take a quarterback here. I kind of think this is where the draft really starts, as we kind of all assume if there's no trades that the top three will be Burrow, Young, and Okuda, and then the Giants are probably going to take the best lineman on the board. And if they think that's Wirfs, that many people do, they'll select him. But if not, they'll take whoever they have probably rated as the top-ranked tackle on their board, leaving the Dolphins kind of with their pick of the litter. And I think I've been hearing a lot as well about Herbert being the guy down there, and that picking him at 5 shows a lot of faith in him, especially with their draft capital in the latter half of the round that he might have slid down and they could have picked him. But if in the NFL you need your franchise quarterback, and I think that's what the Dolphins might be getting there. So that'll move on to the 6th pick, which I have, which is the Chargers.
No,
so after you...
Sorry.
What?
Cool. Sorry.
So after you picked Herbert, I was assuming you were going to take Tua there, but with injury concerns, that's why you went with Herbert. So that's going to allow me to take Tua at number 6 to the Chargers, moving into a new stadium out in LA. Getting Tua from Hawaii, so he's got that West Coast kind of feel to him. He's going to be able to slide in there and be the Chargers franchise quarterback, I think. And he could even sit behind Tyrod Taylor for the year or half of the season to let himself fully recover from that hip injury. And he's coming off some ankle injuries as well. But I think he's one of the more accurate and best quarterback prospects we've seen in the past decade. I really like I said, his accuracy, his mobility, and I think he's a really smart quarterback, a good leader. He's going to take care of the football. He just has to, like we were saying, he just got to stay healthy. But I think he could be the franchise quarterback and kind of a superstar talent, especially in a big market like LA. Try and get that fan base to develop, I guess, especially in the new stadium. So that'll move us on to the 7th overall pick, which is owned by the Panthers, and Eddie will be making that pick.
With the 7th pick, the Panthers will select Isaiah Simmons, linebacker out of Clemson. I believe that they need a replacement for Luke Kuechly, and if he was still available, if the Dolphins didn't take him like Joe didn't, then I'd take him at number 7. He's won a national championship with Clemson in 2018. He was the unanimous All-American 2019, ACC Defensive Player of the Year 2019, first team All-ACC. So someone to replace Luke Kuechly is definitely necessary in that defensive front. And with his size of 6'4", 238, he's an absolute eunuch, and he's one of the top-ranked linebackers in this draft.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, Eddie, about his kind of be a replacement for Luke Kuechly, and he's a guy who has experience playing at safety too in college, and he's a good blitzer as well. He's been talked about as the most versatile defensive player in this year's draft, and could definitely help out Matt Rule, and that'd be a good pick, I think, for his first pick down as head coach in Carolina. But that'll move us on to the 8th pick, which is owned by Luke, and the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock.
So the Cardinals are going to select Derek Brown, the defensive lineman out of Auburn. He's 6'5", 320. The Cardinals really need to solidify that defense, especially the defensive line. That's where you got to start. This offseason, they acquired some pretty good offensive weapons, one of them being DeAndre Hopkins. So I think that's something they got to focus on, is that defense to come in this draft. So,
do you think they would they prioritize defensive line here over maybe getting Kyler Murray an offensive tackle, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, for the Cardinals, they want to protect Murray, but I feel like you can't really pass up on a guy like Derek Brown, who's probably the best defensive lineman in this draft besides Chase Young. So I feel like that's probably the better pick, is Derek Brown. Take the better talent.
Yeah, I've also read a lot. He's a guy who's being compared to Ndamukong Suh, who's been a Pro Bowl caliber player his whole career. So if you could get a guy like that sliding down at 8, I feel like that's too good a value to pass up. So that'll move us on to the 9th overall pick, which is the Jaguars, and Joe will be making that selection.
The Jacksonville Jaguars will be selecting Jedrick Willis Jr., all lineman from Alabama. The Jags need a tackle, if they want to be able to protect the quarterback position, If they're going ahead with Minshew, which, I wouldn't be surprised if later on in the draft you see the Jaguars pick a QB, but as of right now, he's their guy. So an offensive tackle, is a huge need for them, and Willis would be the best offensive tackle on the board. Wirfs obviously is already off the board, but I don't think you can go wrong here with Jedrick Willis Jr. at 9.
Yeah, I think the Jags is one of the more interesting picks in the draft. Kind of a rebuilding team that could pick a lot of spots. I could see them taking a quarterback if one's here that they like still, maybe a wide receiver like Judy or Lamb. But offensive line's definitely a pick. And rumors are Fournette's on the trading block. So the Jaguars could, if they're not in love with anyone here, maybe trade down and select a running back like DeAndre Swift or Jonathan Taylor toward the end of the first. But Will's definitely a safe pick. I heard a lot about him, that him and Wirfs are the top 2 guys at the offensive line position in this year's draft. That'll move us on to the Browns and the 10th overall pick, and that's being made by me. So with this pick, I'm going to continue the trend of taking the offensive lineman, and I'm going to get offensive lineman as a left to right tackle, Mekhi Becton from Louisville. Becton's a guy who he's the biggest of the linemen in this year's draft out of like the first round caliber guys. If you watch his tape, he's a road grader. He really just throws guys around like they're rag dolls out there. 6'7", 350 about. He ran a 5.140-yard dash, was just freakish for his size and stature, and just a great natural athlete, and he's got room to develop. And I think the Browns need to invest in a left tackle after getting Jack Conklin to play right tackle to protect Baker Mayfield and see if he can be the franchise quarterback, especially with all the weapons they have out in Cleveland, like Odell, Jarvis. They signed Austin Hooper. They got Njoku. And they got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt as well. So that's a loaded offense. I feel like that's a team that doesn't have an excuse but to play well, especially if they invest in the 10th pick getting another offensive lineman to protect Mayfield. And if you guys throw out any of the picks, want to chime in or something before we move on, feel free.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, for Luke's pick, 'cause I saw a lot of mock drafts where I believe it was Derek Brown got picked by the Panthers, and they do still need a defensive tackle, but I feel like if Isaiah Simmons is still available at that spot at pick number 7, you can't pass up on him.
Yeah, I feel like Isaiah Simmons is one of the better players in the draft, and if he falls to 7, that's kind of hard to pass up on. So I think, Eddie, that was a good pick there.
Yeah, so
One
that
thing,
okay, you got Joe.
I was just saying one thing about Mekhi Becton, I've been seeing a lot about like he failed a drug test or something.
I did
or
see
he
that.
was like his drug test got
that is
flagged.
bottom.
I don't know if he actually failed. But, as of right now, if he gets cleared and nothing happens, I can see him easily going in the top 10. But I wouldn't be surprised if that, drug test causes some problems and all of a sudden he falls down the draft board a little bit. Don't be surprised if the Jets at 11, want to pick him up because we still need help on the O-line.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I want a top receiver, it wouldn't hurt to get a good O-lineman. And same go for any of these teams, especially if he falls down late to like where the Dolphins are picking at 18. Wouldn't hurt get him a nice O-lineman to help protect Herbert or Tua, whoever they end up picking in the actual draft on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you guys heard about the new rule this offseason that you're not going to be getting in trouble for like failed drug tests anymore. But at the same time, that's kind of like a stupid move by Becton to be doing drugs, knowing the combine was coming up. I mean, we don't know if it was definitely a positive test or whatnot, but it was a flag sample, like you were saying. And that kind of just shows that he might be lacking maturity. And the Browns, with, like I was saying, a great overall roster, they kind of just need a few more pieces and hopefully a solid head coach to lead them to the playoffs. And they might not want to take the risk on Becton and maybe take a safer prospect. But with that, that'll conclude the top 10. Any more comments on that, guys?
I'm good.
I'm surprised we haven't picked a wide receiver yet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm sitting here at 13, and I have, on my card, if there's a wide receiver available, take it. I was expecting at least one of them to be off the board at this point, but if this happens in the draft on Thursday, I wouldn't be complaining. Sitting, Eddie, our Jets sitting in 11 right now.
Just wait till
you have that pick.
Yeah, so that, as we were talking about, the Jets are at 11, and Eddie will be making the selection. Oh, it's only right.
With the 11th pick, I pray to God the Jets pick CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma. I did say that I'd liked at our last podcast that I love Jerry Jeudy, but he also has a 1 inch. He has 1 inch on him. He also had a 5-pound difference. He's a run after catch specialist, and Sam Darnold needs weapons. And since Robbie Anderson's gone, he was really only our deep threat. And CeeDee Lamb can just blow by any defender. And he's ranked number 1 in this wide receiver class. So as much as it would pain me, I would be fine with either pick. But as of right now, in my head, I would be fine with having CeeDee Lamb. But once again, Jerry Jeudy would be great too. And if we don't, we need a lot. Obviously, we need a lot of things. We need an offensive tackle. So if CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy, like Joe was talking about, like if they were to go into the top 10, one of the top 10 picks, which I believe it's possible, then I would feel if we had to get an offensive lineman, Andrew Thomas is still on the board as of right now for us. He's ranked 11th best player in the draft, and we still got to protect Darnold as well. But I feel like right now our primary concern is just getting somebody that Sam Darnold would connect with, someone young, someone fast, and I think they would be a dynamic duo.
I'd be happy with that, either CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy. I think Judy's the better receiver just because obviously stat-wise, CeeDee Lamb, is a little bit better. But once again, I think that factors into him being in the Big 12 compared to Jeudy being in the SEC. And Tua got hurt at the end of the year, so, his stats kind of got skewed a little bit. But I would be happy with either or as long as we don't mess this up and, trade the pick.
See, that's what I'm worried about. Because I've been seeing a lot of things where we trade with the Falcons to get 2 second-round picks, and we can get obviously, there's a lot of this is a wide receiver class for this draft, so we would be able to get a decent wide receiver in the second round if we were to take an offensive lineman, if we were to get that 16th seed. But at the same time, if CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy, either or, is still on the board at that point, and you trade down with the Falcons, it's a Jets move. It really is. But
it's a Jets move.
I really hope they make the right decision this time. And I'm optimistic. I have high hopes, but who knows?
Yeah, I think as a Jets fan, if you get to 11 and no receiver has been taken and you have your pick of either Lamb or Jeudy, or some people are even throwing Ruggs into that conversation, I think you'd be happy with definitely Lamb or Jeudy and maybe even Ruggs as well. Just because
I've seen a lot of things with mock drafts with Ruggs too. All 3 of them are great receivers.
Yeah, I think overall fit in the long term, Ruggs might be better with Darnold just because of his strong arm and he likes to air it out, like we saw with Robbie Anderson. But they did take Perryman in free agency, who's a known deep threat, a fast guy. So if you get a guy like Lamb, who's, like we were saying, Eddie, run after catch specialist, I think that would be a great fit for them as well. But that'll move us on to pick number 12, which is Luke and the new Las Vegas Raiders.
Now, Edward, this is where you made a mistake.
Here we go.
Mike
He's
May,
gonna take Jerry Jeudy.
John Gruden are going to have to send you a bouquet of flowers and a thank you letter because you just let Jerry Jeudy fall into their lap. Eddie, this receiver, I swear, I've never seen a receiver come out of college so polished and ready to play in the NFL to the point where Jerry Jeudy is just that guy. And I think he's going to burst onto the scene in Oakland. Whoever's throwing him the ball is just going to –
It's Vegas.
You're going to have a great receiver. And Yeah, I think if the Raiders, if Judy falls to the Raiders, I think Gruden's going to pull the trigger, and then that's going to be their pick.
Who do you think is going to be the quarterback? Who's going to be throwing at Jerry Judy?
I truly don't think it's going to be Mariota. I really don't. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't think Derek Carr is starting anymore. I don't know who John Gruden's going after at this point. Maybe somewhere in the second round, or if he work his magic, he could probably get Jordan Love at some point in this draft, depending on where he falls to. I don't know.
I say keep an eye out for maybe Cam Newton.
I like that too. I think that could happen.
I feel like it could.
He's
definitely not staying.
I
didn't mention that
be the
before.
face of Vegas too. I like that.
I think Winston and Newton are looking to wait and see what happens in the draft and then reevaluate their options of where they're going to try and sign for the 2020 season. But Luke, like you were saying, I really think Judy's one of the more polished receivers. I think he's like a Stephon Diggs 2.0. Just the way they play the game, the way they run routes, and are effective after the catch as well. I think they're very comparable receivers. And whoever is playing quarterback out in Oakland needs a real number one receiver after the whole Antonio Brown trade went to shit. So that'll move us to the 13th overall pick, which is now owned by the 49ers after a trade with the Colts in the offseason. And Joe will be making that pick.
The 49ers will be picking Henry Ruggs out of Alabama. If he's available at 13th, which I don't think he will be, just because I think one team in the top 10 is going to pick either Judy Lamb or Ruggs, and then the other two will get drafted before him. But if this happens, they'll definitely take Henry Ruggs. You know, they need another receiver next to Deebo Samuel. You know, a team that just came off a Super Bowl loss. That would definitely help, them reload their offensive firepower. And I mean, if he's available, that's great. I personally, though, I wouldn't be surprised though if they end up picking Xavier McKinney. He's a safety out of Bama, because that's why I think they're going to pick come to draft. Because once again, I don't see Henry Ruggs being available this late. But if he is, then the Niners got exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, I think especially after watching Tyreek Hill and his speed kind of ruin that Super Bowl for the 49ers, they feel like they need to get their own deep speed guy and playmaker who can take the top off the defense, and Ruggs does exactly that for Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan. All right, that'll move us on to the 14th overall pick, which is currently owned by Tampa Bay, the Bucs, and I will be making that selection. This is a pick I've had in many of my mock drafts. I think it makes almost too much sense not to happen. I have running back DeAndre Swift from Georgia going here. Philadelphia kid. He's a very tough player. Watch him play throughout high school and college, and he's one of the more complete running backs I've seen. Just a big, strong back. Durable, too, I think. He could catch balls out of the backfield. He can pass protect, and I think he'd become a prominent weapon for Tom Brady, especially out of the backfield. I think he reminds me of kind of a Le'Veon Bell type player, where he's going to catch you like 50 to 60 balls out of the backfield, and he's going to be able to run in between the tackles, run outside. And he's going to be very good in the zone running scheme, on like zone running plays, I think. And Swift is just a perfect fit with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin down there at receiver. Ronald Jones is a solid running back, but if you get a more elite guy like Swift in there, and you can kind of have Jones as play the second fiddle role, that would just make them more of a complete offense. And I think they have a pretty solid second-round pick as well, where they could take an offensive tackle if they feel like they need to add some more protection up front for Tom Brady. All right, so we'll move on to the 15th pick there, which is the Denver Broncos, and Eddie will be making that pick.
With the 15th pick, I believe the Broncos will pick Andrew Thomas out of Georgia. I can't believe that, like, in our mock draft, that he's fallen so low. In my opinion, he's the third best lineman in this draft, 6'5", 315 pounds, and the Broncos also need a wide receiver as well. So I could see him taking Justin Jefferson, especially. Do you guys remember that game against Oklahoma? 4 touchdowns on 14 receptions. He's ranked, I believe, the 4th or 5th best wide receiver in this class. So either or, in my opinion, is an absolute need for the Broncos. And Drew Lock needs a receiver. But if Andrew Thomas is still there at the 15th pick, I believe you can't pass him up.
Yeah, I think Thomas is a very solid lineman that you could throw in there and be your left tackle from day one. And I think he still has some room to grow, too, when it comes to potential. So he could only be scratching the surface of what he can become. And I think the Broncos are going to be going forward with Drew Lock as their franchise quarterback, and adding protection for him is a key.
I also thought I had the Bucks pick, so I just read like the Google Doc and saw that I had the Broncos. So that was just like a really quick analysis, but I still believe that would be the right choice.
All right, so we're going to move on to the 16th pick. That'll be conclude the first half of the first round, and Luke is on the clock with the Falcons.
So I have the Falcons selecting C.J. Henderson, cornerback out of Florida. He's 6'1", 204. He's a really impressive cover corner. I really like what he can do, and I think the Falcons have really been in need of a true lockdown corner alongside Trufant. And I'm really impressed with Henderson's length. I feel like he has great ball skills when the ball's in the air, and he can stick with defender or wide receivers. So I like that pick.
Well, look, I don't know if you remember, Trufant actually got released. He's now out in Detroit, so C.J. Henderson could step in right away and be their CB1 from day one.
That's right. I forgot about Trufant. He left, yeah. So Henderson could be your one corner then.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying about it. He's got good ball skills and good man coverage. He also ran a 4.38 at the combine, so he's got very good speed.
For 6'1" guy, pretty good.
Yeah. He's going to get matched up against guys like Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, so he's going to have to run with them stride for stride down the field. So I like that pick in Atlanta as well. That'll move us on to number 17 overall. It's the Dallas Cowboys, and Joe Komet's favorite team will be making. Joe will be making.
You did me dirty there, but with the 17th pick, the Cowboys will select Grant Delpit out of LSU. They need a defensive back. I actually had penciled in that they were going to pick C.J. Henderson, but obviously he was nabbed the pick before. Grant Delpit was, one of the best defensive players in college football. I think he actually won. What's the award called? Hold on, I got it. The Thorpe Award. It's the best defensive back in college football. And, if he's still available at 17th, which wouldn't really surprise me if he is, because he doesn't really have a true fit. Like, he could play safety, he could play corner, and I think they'll try to mold him into a cornerback down there in Dallas. But he's a hell of a player. He's a great defensive back. He showed it all last year, and the year before that at LSU. And I think he'll make a good fit for the Cowboys.
Luke, you got anything on that NFC East analysis?
I like that pick. The Cowboys have done that before. They take those hybrid guys. Byron Jones out of college was a hybrid guy like that, and they did a pretty good job molding him. They did 4 or so. And he's doing the same thing. He's doing stuff. So.
Yeah, and the with Byron Jones leaving this offseason, and Jeff Heath, who played again the backup safety role for them for a long time down in Dallas, they're definitely in the need for a D-back and some help on their back end. And a guy like Delpit, I agree with you, Joe, would be a solid pick at this point. So that'll put me on the clock with the Dolphins at 18. With this pick, I'm going to take a guy. I had this in my latest seven-round mock draft that I wrote a few days ago. I have them taking a guy you were talking about earlier, Joe, but I'm surprised you passed on him at 17. Xavier McKinney, the safety out of Alabama. I think McKinney is the best safety in this year's class. I think he's going to be a very reliable player. Guy who plays you 8 to 10 years of very solid football, maybe getting a few Pro Bowls there, but with the Dolphins taking a quarterback like Herbert, who has some question marks, or if they take Tua, who has a lot of health question marks, that's not really a slam dunk pick for either of those guys. I think they have to take a more reliable player, and they get that here with McKinney. Played down in Alabama in the SEC, So he's seen it all. He's been in a pro system already with Nick Saban. So taking a guy like McKinney to help shore up that back end in Miami that just signed Byron Jones like we were talking about. They already have Xavier Howard at the other corner. You get them a solid safety in the middle of the field like McKinney, that's going to help them out. So we'll move on now to the 19th pick, which is Eddie and the Las Vegas Raiders.
With the 19th pick, the Raiders already picked probably one of the best receivers in the draft, and even though as a Jets fan, I'd probably pick CeeDee Lamb, but they still need a defensive tackle, and there is this man from South Carolina, I think it's Javon Kinlaw, is how you pronounce his name?
Kinlaw.
Yeah.
And I don't really know too much about him, but I believe that he's still one of the best defensive tackles still left in this draft. And so with the addition of that wide receiver, they still need help on the defense, and it's a very good defensive tackle.
Yeah, from what I've read on Kinlaw, he's got some of the highest potential out of any defensive player in the draft. He's kind of scratching the surface of what he can become, and he really lit it up last year at South Carolina towards the end of the season as the year went on, and this year at the Senior Bowl, and he had a great combine as well. So Kinlaw is definitely a guy to look out for come the NFL season and within the next few years as a player who could potentially become a Pro Bowler, I think. That'll move us on to the Jaguars, number 20, and Joe will be making the pick.
The Jacksonville Jaguars select Marlon Davidson, D lineman from Auburn. And, I make this pick because, given the age of Calais Campbell, the Jaguars have to emphasize, a rebuild of the D-line. They can't just sit and wait until Calais Campbell's 50 to, start getting some more pieces up front there. And, coupled with, I had them picking at number 9, Jedrick Willis. You get a great O-lineman, then you get a great D-lineman. The battle coming from a former offensive lineman. The game is won in the trenches. And if you can get great O and D linemen, you're going to win a lot of football games. And that's definitely where it starts for the Jaguars. If they think, like I said earlier, that Minshew is the guy for them, then you need to start shoring up your O and D line, and then you build out from there. And that's how the Jaguars are going to be successful going forward.
Yeah, I agree. It all starts in the trenches and up front in the NFL. And the Jaguars are a team who have invested a lot of resources over the years in their D-line and should start investing in their O-line more as well. But I like Davidson. I've seen some where he's been like a second-round guy, but you would definitely make the case for him to be a first-round prospect as well. So that'll wrap up the first 20 picks. You guys got anything on the last 10 picks you want to touch on?
Just Judy going 12th and Eddie picking CeeDee Lamb. Once again, CeeDee Lamb's a great deep threat, which would definitely replace Robbie Anderson from last year. But besides that, not really many surprises. I'm seeing though in some drafts DeAndre Swift somehow falling into the second round. I don't agree with that. I think he's a first round guy. And like you said, Ryan, you've been saying all since we've been doing this podcast from home. Tom Brady could definitely benefit from having DeAndre Swift. So I think, that would be a solid pick there. Exactly. That's Tom Brady's game. It'd be perfect there.
Yeah, I was seeing a lot of stuff too, like how, even like you were saying that DeAndre Swift falls to the second round, but Jonathan Taylor, as of right now, is still on the board too. I know we talked about before that like the Wisconsin line, anyone can run behind it, but he is still ranked to CBS Sports and probably some other sources too as the number 1 running back in this class. So even if he still is available at the 14th pick to the Buccaneers, I don't think Tom Brady would be opposed to having Jonathan Taylor behind him. So
yeah, Swift is I don't know if that pick's going to happen. I think they might go O-line, but I think if they're kind of just looking at their board and they see best player, want to take the best player available, I think Swift could do that, and he's definitely improving the running back position for a team who's in win now mode with Brady only on a 2-year deal. They're gonna put all their chips at the table, and I think Swift would fit well. But I could definitely see them going O-line maybe even investing in the defense to shore that up too. You got anything, Luke?
On the contrary to all that, I don't think that a running back goes this high in the draft. I think Swift might find his way or slip his way in there at the end of the first round, but I feel like there's too many good players in this draft for the Bucks to take a running back since running backs are so undervalued nowadays. But I could see it, as you guys were saying, that Brady needs his running backs. He loves throwing to the check down route sometimes out of the backfield, so Swift would make some sense. So I agree with you guys there.
All right. We're going to move on then to our last 12 picks of the draft, and that starts with 21 with or 11 picks of the draft, 21 with the Eagles, and Luke will be making that pick. I gifted that to him.
Yes, you will.
Who you got, Lukey?
Oh, God, if the draft turns out this way, I hope we don't mess this up. But we better go wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, LSU. I think he is probably, or most definitely, the fourth best wide receiver in this draft. And if this was any other draft class, Justin Jefferson would probably be the best receiver in the draft or second best receiver in the draft, because I've never seen this many good receivers come out of in 1 year. I think Jefferson is an exact prototype of Alshon Jeffrey, who's getting a lot older. It's a very big target for bigs to hit. I think this is obvious to the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, we all know as from watching the Eagles in our room all year that the receivers suck. So getting a guy like Jefferson, who played with Joe Burrow and lit it up in the SEC, and he like I was saying, played with Joe Burrow. He has already chemistry with a top level quarterback, so he should fit right in there with Carson Wentz, and hopefully that can be his go-to guy for years to come.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll move us on to the 22nd pick overall, which is the Minnesota Vikings, and I will be making that selection. And with this pick, I'm going to have the Vikings taking K'Lavon Chaisson, edge rusher from LSU. I was very surprised to see him on the board still here. I think Luke, I mean, I hope we go receiver round one if Jefferson is the best on the board still. But I could see the Eagles taking this guy, Chaisson, as well from LSU, just because the defensive line is getting older, and Chaisson is a great prospect. I think he could wind up being the best defensive player in this draft. A lot of people have Chase Young as the top. I have him as my top guy too, but I think Chaisson's raw potential, and he's got long arms, got quick burst coming off the defensive line, and he could be a pass rushing beast for years to come. Kind of like Aldon Smith was, I think, when he was with the 49ers back before he started getting in trouble. He's just got that raw natural ability, and his best days of football are ahead of him. I think if he's on the board here, I think the Vikings will definitely pick him up, especially after losing Everson Griffin. They need a guy off the edge who's going to get after Aaron Rodgers, as the Packers are really the only team they're going to probably be competing with this year in the NFC North. But I think this pick makes a lot of sense, and I think if Chaisson slips past the Falcons or the Cowboys, a team might have to trade up if they want to select him. That'll move us on to pick number 23 and the Patriots, with Eddie's favorite team making the pick.
With the 23rd pick, I don't know if it's just my opinion because I'm not a Patriots fan, a Jets fan, but I believe they go quarterback. I think they take Jordan Love. And I haven't heard too much about him, but I feel like he's one of those quarterbacks who's just been underrated because of Tua, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, everything like that. But they need a replacement for Brady. And if he's still there at this point in the draft and Belichick's not going anywhere, he can make any quarterback. If they don't get Cam Newton or anything like that, any of the quarterbacks in the offseason, I feel like he can make Jordan Love not into Tom Brady, but what kind of quarterback that he wants in New England.
Yeah, Luke, you got anything on that quarterback prospect?
Well, I'm going to say you took my next pick, the Saints, but I like that. I think Jordan Love's going to fit in just fine with Belichick. I think that he needs a lot of developing, and Belichick's just the guy to do that. So I like the pick, Eddie, but you took my pick, so sorry.
Yeah, it was either that or they need an edge rusher too, and AJ Espenza, I think his name is still on the board. Esperanza, yeah. And he provides positional versatility up front, and it just seems like a Patriots edge rusher right there, fourth best edge rusher in this class. And Belichick has some relations with the Iowa State coach too. So I can see that pick going either edge or quarterback there.
Yeah, I think, like you were saying, Luke, he's a prospect that needs development, but his raw and natural talent has been compared to Patrick Mahomes. So if Belichick thinks that this is a guy that he can work with, he can sit behind Hoyer or Stidham for a year, maybe two, or he could surprise people and be able to hop in right away or midway through the season. So I think Love is one of the more intriguing prospects, and it'll be interesting. I think he's going to be a boomer bust guy who he's got all the ability, but can he put all of it together and make the decisions that a top flight quarterback would? But that'll move us on to the next pick with Luke and the Saints.
So the Saints, after their quarterback goes to the Patriots, I feel like have to select cornerback Christian Fulton from LSU. I think that he is probably your next best corner on the board, and he won't have to be the number one corner immediately. You still have Latimer there, defending all those great wide receivers that are now in that division, and I think Fulton probably be your best pick here to solidify a team secondary that really isn't that weak, and that there's not any a lot of weak spots on the Saints, but this is probably the weakest, so I think Fulton's your pick.
Yeah, Joe, you got anything on that? I know you're big on guys who play their college ball by and getting selected by teams in that same state.
Yeah, I actually had him as the pick for the Vikings, who I have next. But I mean, yeah, you can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with him. He's a great defensive back. He led I think my computer is about to explode, by the way. I'm sorry. But yeah, he's one of the best deep backs in the draft. I think if he's still available, because there's some mocks he's going early as 17th, 18th, and if he's still available at 24, I think the Saints should definitely pick him.
All right, good stuff. Is your laptop all right, Joe?
Dude, I don't know what's going on right now. The fan is going crazy.
It's all the anatomy you're doing there.
Laptop.
Yeah.
Take a war room break and get my laptop charger. Or my
yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah. First, we couldn't get him to come on the podcast, and now he's not even at his laptop charge.
All right, we'll go to the 25th pick next, and that's Joe with the Vikings.
The Vikings will also be selecting a cornerback, Jalen Johnson out of Utah. Vikings, need some help a quarterback. Xavier Rhodes didn't exactly play that hot against the 49ers. They have 3 cornerbacks hitting free agency this offseason. So I think it definitely wouldn't hurt to get, a guy like Jalen Johnson, who was, the lead guy on defense out at Utah. They had a great defense, and they had a great year out there. But I definitely think, if he's still available at 25th, which I wouldn't really be surprised if he is. Some people might think this is a little bit of a reach, getting him at 25. But at this point, if you have a quality defensive back, and, if you need a quality defensive back, you got to take him if he's available.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Johnson going to the Vikings. It seems like he's a good scheme fit down there too. A lot of the scouts rave about his long arms and his strength, and he might be a prospect on the rise who could fly up some draft boards as we get closer to Thursday night and maybe even Friday, round 2 or round 3. But that'll move us to the 26th pick, which is me, and I'll be picking for the Dolphins. So after investing in a quarterback at number 5 and a safety at 18, you can make an argument for a receiver or an offensive lineman here, and I'm actually going to take a receiver for Justin Herbert and have a guy to pair with DeAndre Parker down in Miami. So I'm going to be taking wide receiver Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State, a receiver who's rocketed up a lot of draft boards, especially with a strong Senior Bowl and Combine. He's been kind of a late bloomer in the process, I guess you could say. But he's got some of the best yak potential with the ball in his hands. And I think with a quarterback like Herbert and a strong arm, as he gets better and learns to trust it and can kind of throw receivers into space, Ayuk's a guy who can make a living with the ball in his hands after the catch. And he can also be a valuable asset, I think, right away on kick and punt returns, just with his, like I was saying, he can make defenders miss, he can break tackles, and he's going to be a quick around guys, and so I think he could be a very valuable asset with the ball in his hands and help out on special teams and be a potential number one receiver if Parker finds his way out of Miami. But I feel like that would be a great duo down in South Beach.
Yeah, exactly. If the Dolphins don't trade away any of their picks, they can have the potential to really, build for the future here if they don't screw this up or, trade away to get some mid-round picks. They can get they can get 3 quality guys who can definitely help bring some relevance back to the Dolphins.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a big draft when it comes to building a foundation of players because they traded Fitzpatrick, they traded Tunsil. So these are the picks that they're going to be making for those guys. And we've seen before, I remember a few years ago, the Browns having all those first-round picks in the draft, and look what happened with them. It doesn't matter, how many picks you got to be able to evaluate and make the right pick. And hopefully for Miami's sake, they can turn the corner down there, and this is a big draft for them for their future. But that'll move us on to pick 27, which is the Seattle Seahawks, and Eddie will be making the pick.
For the Seattle Seahawks, pick 27th. They'll be picking an offensive tackle. Josh Jones is still up on the board at the Houston. He's the 5th best lineman in this draft. And I was just reading something before. Let me see if I can find it. Well, they have to protect Russell Wilson. He got rushed a lot last year. And then Rashad Penny is coming off his ACL tear. So if you improve the offensive line and Rashad Penny can get back to where he was before the ACL tear, I believe and Chris Carson, they can run all over people.
Yeah, I feel like ever since Russell Wilson's been in Seattle, I know it's a style of play, kind of extending plays and whatnot, but I feel like he's been running for his life ever since he became the starting quarterback down there. So investing in another tackle on the other side of Dwayne Brown would be a smart pick by the Seahawks as they hope to compete for the Super Bowl, as they seem to always be in the mix for. You got anything on Jones, Joe, from the lineman side?
No, not really. I haven't done a lot of my research on this guy, not going to lie.
All right, we'll go on to pick 28 then, which is Luke and the Ravens.
So with the Ravens, I feel like they kind of need to protect Lamar Jackson going into this upcoming season, even though I feel like they could go wide receiver here. But I feel like that's not even to protect your franchise quarterback who is very run heavy, pulls the ball down a lot, and tries to make plays happen, which can get rid of shorten his lifespan in the NFL. So I think they got to go Cesar Ruiz here, Michigan offensive lineman. I was going to go with Eddie's pick, but he took the guy right off the board for me. So
he's been doing that a lot, Luke.
If that at this point you might go T. Higgins, but if you could trade down, you would trade down. But I think Cesar Ruiz is your next best offensive lineman, so I think that's who it's going to be.
Yeah, I really like that pick, Luke, especially because Marshall Yanda, their all-pro guard, retired this offseason. So Ruiz is an interior guy who can play both center and guard, and he could kind of step in there right away and play guard and fill that hole that Yanda left. And like you were saying, a run-heavy team, you got to pave those rushing lanes, and Ruiz is going to do just that for the Ravens. He's a Camden native, too. You know that, Luke?
No, I knew that. I knew he was from Camden.
But we're going to move on to pick 29, which is the Titans. And Joe will be making that pick. This is your last pick of the first round, Joe.
End of an era. With the 29th pick, the Titans will select Yetur Gross-Matos. Is that how you say his name? I might have completely butchered it.
It's perfect.
But edge rusher out of Penn State. he was one of their best players from the team last year. I think, his ceiling is kind of late first round in terms of draft. And, the Titans could really use a cornerback, but at this point in the draft, I don't see anyone really falling, to their pick. So I think, you go with one of the best defensive players on the board at this point and get a good edge rusher who could definitely help them stop the run. And, the Titans offensively were there. Obviously, Tannehill, can be a little bit better in the passing game, but if they shore up defensively, wouldn't surprise me to see the Titans back competing, especially in the AFC South, which is just awful. Especially now with Hopkins leaving, the Texans are done. The Colts are still trying to find themselves. Jaguars, who the hell knows with them? So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Titans, they start shoring up on defense. Wouldn't be surprised to see them, making a run this postseason.
Yeah, and ever since Mike Vrabel became the head coach down there in Tennessee, they've been historically over these past few years a team who likes to invest up front. And I think that I could definitely see them getting a defensive end like Gross Matos, who's a raw prospect as well, still has some room to grow, but he can step in and rush the passer from day one and be an impact player for the Titans down in the AFC South. So this will move on to my last pick with the Packers at number 30. I'm going to go with wide receiver Denzel Mims from Baylor. Mims is another guy, kind of like Ayuk, who has really skyrocketed up draft boards after he nailed the Senior Bowl, he nailed the Combine, and he's been excelling in interviews, I've heard as well, just preaching to teams that he's got like that natural raw ability that you just can't teach if you get him in the right system, where with a guy like Aaron Rodgers and head coach who's on the rise in Matt LaFleur, and across from a receiver like Devontae Adams who could kind of teach him the ropes, those two could form a dynamic duo. Adams is more of a solid route runner and a good threat like in the red zone. But if you get Mims in there, he's a deeper threat. He's got 4.4 speed. He has great skills with the ball in his hands. And another guy I think you could possibly put as a kick returner / punt returner from the start, just get the ball in his hands and see how many different ways he can affect the game. Another guy here I like is T. Higgins, kind of like you were talking about, Luke. He'd be more of a red zone threat, but I think Mims has the higher ceiling as a prospect and could be more explosive, especially with a strong arm quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, who likes to make those ad-lib plays and kind of throw it deep and let the receivers make a play. I like Mims there. So that'll move us to pick 31 with the 49ers and Eddie picking. This will be, Eddie, your last pick as well, and the 49ers' second pick of the first round.
With the 31st pick, the 49ers will select an offensive tackle, Ezra Cleveland from Boise State. Now, Luke was the only one to pick them in the Super Bowl when we all knew that the Chiefs were going to win.
Mm-hmm.
But they already picked a wide receiver with the 13th pick with Henry Ruggs. So I believe if you give Jimmy G some more time to throw the ball, he'll hit him in the stride. And defense wins championship, and you saw how many times that Jimmy G was rushed or got sacked in the Super Bowl. So with Joe Staley going into his 14th year, that's someone that can replace him and give Jimmy G more time.
Yeah, I think he could be the long-term replacement, like you were saying, for Staley. Maybe let Staley ride it out one more year and hope Cleveland could maybe play a guard, a big guy like him, just improve that unit up front. I mean, the 49ers defensive line's loaded. You might as well start loading it up on the offensive side as well. But that'll move us to the 32nd and last pick of the first round, which is held by Luke and his Chiefs.
So
before you make the pick, was it heads or tails in the Super Bowl?
How long was the national anthem?
It was heads. But we're not going to go into the description of that. But anyway, the 32nd pick, the Chiefs pick my New Jersey native, Jonathan Taylor. I think that I know I said earlier that there's probably not going to be any running backs going in the first round, but I think the Chiefs are an exception here. And since Swift is already off the board, I think Taylor is probably your next best player. The the Chiefs they don't really have much need on either side of the ball, but I think if you get that extra player at the running back position like Jonathan Taylor, who could probably be a superstar in this league if everything goes right. And I know a lot of teams are worried about mileage, but the Chiefs aren't very run heavy, so they're probably not as worried as other teams are about mileage on a running back. So I think Taylor's the best pick here.
Yeah, just another explosive player on that offense. I like Taylor, or if they Swift's off the board, another running back, maybe even J.K. Dobbins, a guy like him. Or invest, I think, at corner could be a spot as well here. Shore up that pass defense. But that'll conclude our first round. Just before we head out, I wanted each of you to just pick what was your favorite pick of the first round and just tell us why. It doesn't have to be the pick that you made, but just kind of a pick overall. You like the guy's potential, or you like the fit for that team. So, Joe, since you had the first pick, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I think if he's available at 12, Jerry Jeudy is a perfect fit for the Raiders. Granted, doesn't really know who will be throwing to him yet, but it'll definitely give whoever they get, whether it be Cam, Jameis, whether they stick with I'm totally blanking on his name.
Carr.
But yeah, Derek Carr. Who he'll be a huge help to them, and I mean, I think he has a potential to be rookie of the year because obviously, Burrow's first year in Cincinnati, it's not like he's going to, they're going to be 16-0 and win the Super Bowl, but he has the potential to be great, one of the next great receivers. And I think he'd be a perfect fit wherever he went. But if the Raiders, are sitting there at 12 and he's still available, I think that's a perfect pick.
All right, sounds good. I'll move on to. We were touching on this earlier. I really like the fit with DeAndre Swift to Tampa Bay, but I'll pick another guy for mine. Sorry, I just had it up right here. I really like Jordan Love going to the Patriots. I think if he gets in there in that system, in that room, and learns how to be a NFL quarterback, I think he could light it up with Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels for years to come, and maybe rebuild that Patriots dynasty. I know you Jets fans are hoping that happens. The Patriots' run of success continues, but I think as a football fan, I mean, obviously I hope the Patriots' window of success closes and we see some new teams, but just thinking from like a football mind, I would put Jordan Love to the Patriots as a very intriguing pick, and I would love to see how that unfolds and see, can Bill Belichick really develop a quarterback, or was it all Tom Brady, or we'll see if it's all Belichick and the quarterback doesn't really matter. So that would be intriguing to see how Love and Belichick would work together up in New England. But with that being said, we'll move on to you, Eddie. Who is your favorite pick of the first round?
Yeah, I liked how Joe picked Justin Herbert for the Dolphins at pick 5. I mean, I really thought, in my mind, I would have picked Tua, but I believe Justin Herbert is just like I was saying before with Jordan Love, like it's Joe Burrow and Tua's draft. That's who everyone's talking about, and then Justin Herbert is probably like the third best quarterback. So I feel like wherever he goes, he's just gonna prove him wrong, like how Aaron Rodgers was like so set on going to the Niners, and then he went to the Packers, and he's like, that was a bad mistake, and he proved them wrong.
Yeah. All right, sounds good. And before we wrap this up, Luke, who you got?
Yeah, I agree with you, Coyle. My favorite pick was the Patriots getting Jordan Love. I feel like that's a perfect system for him to go to, a perfect head coach, perfect owner. Same thing if he went to the Saints. I feel like Sean Payton and then that ownership there in New Orleans would be perfect for him, too, to develop. So I think Jordan Love pick was good. I like that.
All right. And wait, before we head out, Luke, I just wanted to pick your brain on one thing. What would your thoughts be on the Saints investing in Jonathan Taylor at running back?
Ooh. That high at 24?
Because Kamara's entering his contract year, and we've seen running backs in the NFL kind of on their next wave of their contract kind of fall out. I feel like if you could preserve Kamara's career, maybe play him more as a receiver, kind of how the Panthers used McCaffrey, more of that role, and like how they used to use Kamara when they had Ingram, and he let Taylor just be that primary running back. I think you can preserve Kamara's career more.
Running back lifespans, I feel like, is becoming shorter and shorter, and that Kamara is definitely, I don't want to say closing on the end of his career because he isn't, but he's definitely slowing down a little bit. And if you wanted to preserve him more, you'd put him at receiver, like you said, or you would use him in like a rotation with Jonathan Taylor. So I wouldn't hate that pick. I feel like it would be good, but I feel like it's a little too high. Maybe if I feel like they could still get him if they traded down, or like traded away a player and then got like more picks later on. I think that could work out. So.
All right, sounds good, guys. Thanks for hopping on. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. If you liked it, like and subscribe. We've made great progress in the recent weeks ever since we started doing these videos. So I appreciate the support. If you guys could keep it up, I'm gonna post my link to my 7-round mock draft in the description below as well. If you want to give that a read, and hope you guys enjoy the draft. I know I will. I've been looking forward to it. It's finally something sports related to watch during all this, but I hope everyone's staying safe. You guys got anything?
I'm good. Stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe. Right. Let's go Jets.
Let's go Jets, baby. Lead green.
Right. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.